All right, all right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I would love to welcome you to episode 7 of the Know It All podcast. The title of today's episode is Venture into the Unknown, Why You Should Take Risk and Go After Your Goals. Of course, the goal here of the Know It All podcast is to explore various topics, and the goal today is to hear from an expert in their field, and we're going to really dive deeply into what it's like to venture into the unknown and why taking risk is crucial in achieving your goals. And as you can likely see, I am joined by a guest today. This is Ray. He is an industry leader in the employee engagement field. More specifically, he is the founder of Fearless Feedback, LLC. Fearless Feedback is an applied science of employee engagement solution, where Ray and his team specialize in the harmonious integration of science into the workplace to create more profitable companies without compromising employee well-being, which we all clap our hands for, especially coming out of COVID. There are a lot of companies really adjusting to how to keep their employees happy. But Ray's here. He's going to share his insights on why taking risk is essential in reaching your goals, and also just how to navigate the unknown. Understanding how taking risk can be daunting and is really natural to feel apprehensive when stepping out of your comfort zone. We really like to be in our lanes. We like to stay in our box where we know what to expect and we know what we can do. However, the reward in achieving our goals often outweighs the fear of failure. So Ray and I are going to discuss how embracing the unknown can lead to both personal and professional growth, and also just how to overcome the obstacles that may stand in your way. To give you a little bit more background about Ray, throughout his career, he has helped multiple companies enhance their employee engagement. He understands that risks are essential to success. He has a BS in economics from a top 25 global university, as well as an MS in business analytics from the #2 ranked data science school in the U.S. And he also has his EMBA from the only accredited mobile first MBA program in the U.S. He's also a MENSA member. Clap it up for him. And he's an accomplished researcher. So sit back, relax, and join us as we explore why taking risk and venturing into the unknown can lead to achieving your goals. This is the Know It All podcast. Of course, I am your host, Quick Jigs. And without further delay, let's get started. Before we kick off here, Ray, I want to just make sure I didn't miss out on anything, and give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience.
Oh, that was incredibly thorough, better than I could have done it, and I appreciate it too. It was very kind as well.
Awesome. Well, again, welcome to episode 7 of the Know It All podcast. I'm really excited to have you on. As we already discussed, what I really want to get into is understanding kind of what got you to the position you are now, and hoping that you can give some practical advice and input based on your experience of overcoming obstacles and becoming a successful entrepreneur. So to begin, if I could ask you, can you briefly walk us through the motivation just to even venture into starting your own business?
Sure, yeah, and it's not necessarily that easy to explain. There's a lot in there. I would say step 1 is being honest with yourself, with what is right for you, with what is congruent with who you are. We're all very different. So what's right for me might not necessarily be right for you or the next person. So I think throughout my life, I've been observing what I like, what I don't like, what I'm good at, what I'm not. And this is really the perfect marriage of what my best self and what I like to do. And so that's what got me here. I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Perfect. So understanding, once you've reached that position of understanding your best self and what works for you, what led you to Fearless Feedback?
I was in a corporation that was in dire straits. The company during the COVID pandemic, we had to lay off about 40% of our employees.
Wow.
We had a hiring freeze, and we were in Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So our employees were very disengaged.
Yeah.
And actually, you can imagine people were leaving. Lots of times for Amazon. People were leaving in droves.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, like, I had been holding back on these inefficiencies that I saw everywhere. I had been holding back. And it was a perfect opportunity to be like, hey, I can fix that. I emailed a vice president one night. I sat in his office for 5 minutes the next day. And now, the engagement of this entire department was in my hands. That was my project. So that's how it got started.
Okay.
Which is a good thing. Pressure is good. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you were working with this corporation, but also, I guess you had kind of a vision of how to apply, I guess, your analytical background to help improve that employee engagement.
Yeah. So first, I'll just kind of clear the confusion. I'm the odd mix of being very empathetic and being a math nerd, right? So I'll analyze everything, and I'm also very empathetic to all the inefficiencies and the obstacles that other employees have to overcome. Lots of times, a manager might write someone off for something that isn't even necessarily true, or lots of times, a subordinate might be frustrated with the manager or disengage because of a misunderstanding, because of not clear communication. I kept seeing that everywhere, and I was like, man, if only this went right. If only the manager's employee went right, like these 4 people wouldn't have left. This lady would have been promoted. Right. All these different. It's like it was everywhere, and I was frustrated by it. So yeah, I saw an opportunity, and I took it.
So walk us through the I guess the methodology that you applied, and obviously the most important question is, was it successful?
Yeah. I'm going to back up from methodology. First of all, engagement is in the hands of the managers. If a company is trying to put that in the hands of HR, it's not on them. It's on you. So it's really taking responsibility for the engagement of everyone on our own team. That's it. HR can only do so much, and they do a great job, by the way, usually.
Yeah.
But I want to start there. Can you get back to the question? I want to roll it back. I just want to start with that. What was the question? Mind rolling it back for me?
Just what was the methodology, and how did you apply it, and was it successful?
The methodology is literally teaching managers how to give direct feedback, positive and negative. Why it was very successful. Our productivity across the board went up by 43% as a company.
Wow.
4 entire departments, 53 different leaders. Our engagement actually went up by 9%. Our productivity went up more. So that was pretty wild. That's on average, by the way. So it's effective. What is unfortunate is what's the status quo, what's commonly known as best managerial practices for giving feedback to your subordinate, we'll call it, is wrong. It's wrong. It has so many wrong things in it. And it's unfortunate. Because people are like, it's the manager's fault, it's HR's fault, it's the employee's fault, it's no one's fault. We just have to learn how to do it the right way.
Gotcha. So what was some of the as you sat in this VP's office and he or she gave you the okay to initiate this program, what are some of the challenges you saw? And to build on that, was there a moment where you kind of got flustered or frustrated and kind of felt like this just isn't going to work out because of whatever variable you may share?
Yeah. First of all, even emailing that vice president was a risk. At the time, my title was senior analyst, and I was very much wearing my data nerd hat, right? So emailing that out, I could have lost my job. But I realized, since people were getting fired so quickly, and I was 3 months in, I had to take a risk to mitigate a risk. And that's what I was doing. So I want to tie in. You said earlier on why you have to take risks. You need to take risks. It's the riskiest thing in the world is if you didn't take it. That's an example. I saved my job by taking this, but I got flustered the whole time. The seamless integration into that company culture, whose culture I didn't know yet. I've been there for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming in with this purist scientist, approach. And VP, I meet with him every week, and he's like, "Nope, none of that. And also, this needs to be 2 minutes." And I'm like, "Huh." There was challenges throughout. It was wonderful actually. Basically getting mentored by him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was challenging all the time. Just to change your mind frame, your mindset, your methodology, making it fit into the corporate world.
Curious, was there when you had those challenging windows, was there a person, and I understand you just said that he turned out to be kind of a mentor, but was there a person in your network that you also relied on for advice? Is there a go-to book or anything that you use to navigate those type of scenarios?
It's a good question. Yes, there were people I leaned on, and I was lucky to have a good manager. A lot of people say that, and they don't mean it. I actually did, which is good. So I got to bounce ideas off of him first, which was awesome.
Good.
But more importantly than any of that, say that didn't exist and say no one was on your team. The most important thing is to take full responsibility for the outcome. In doing that, people can tell. People can tell. And at the very least, you may find this your experience too. Like people can tell at the very least they'll walk away respecting you and respecting what you said because they know you put everything into it and you're taking full accountability for it. So I think that helped. So having a good manager and that VP to bounce things off of was a huge advantage. In fact, without that VP, this never would have gotten adopted in the first place. He mowed things down for me. But what can I control and what can I not control? I think the most important thing that we do is we are our best selves and we take full responsibility for everything that we do.
Yeah. And I really rely, part of what you said on the back end of there is what can I control? I personally find that to be a really great way to approach any type of challenge because control the variables that I can control because the other pieces are going to fall where they are. So sometimes people become so overwhelmed by a challenging situation that they start to panic over the variables that they can't control instead of controlling what you can control. And going from there.
Would you say like, I want to pick your brain about this. Like, would you say if you're going toward what you cannot control versus going toward what you can control in a situation, like what kind of outcomes are you seeing? Like, how are you seeing that affect people? Is basically my question. Like, if you're doing it this way or that way.
I think when I'm going into a scenario, I should say, where I don't have control. It's normally a lot more in the dark. So not being able to clearly anticipate kind of what's going to unfold next can be a mental challenge, as especially my type of personality, because I'm a type of person, I plan everything to an obsessive level, to an annoying level, to myself and to others sometimes, because I thrive in, I'm sorry?
You systematic?
Very much so. Very much so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Like I plan not planning. That's how much I plan.
Okay.
So if I'm going to not plan and I'm going to go with the flow, I plan how I'm going to go with the flow. It's totally ridiculous, but I also know that it's okay to go into the unknown. I also know that there are variables I can't control. I know that I can give a proposition or I can give the answer to a puzzle, but how a person uses it or applies it, I can't control. So all I can do is do my very best internally to hopefully reflect to the outcome that I'm anticipating or would like to see.
Yeah.
And just kind of go from there. Yeah.
I've noticed for the short time I've noticed you're incredibly thorough and it's like, and very poised. Would you say that poise is is one of the secret sauces to your success as well? I'm curious about
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't, maybe. I've never thought about it. I think a lot of the things that I've been able to do successfully just came from a willingness to try, and not try in the sense of the simple way that people use try, where if someone says I'm going to try almost anything, I'll say you might as well not do it. This is what I'll say in my head. I won't always say it out loud, because when someone says I'm going to try, that means, to me, that means you're planning for failure versus I'm going to. So my willingness to say I'm going to, I think, drives a lot of my success, because I'm okay with falling flat on my face. I'm okay with embarrassing myself in front of others, because if I put my eyes on a goal, I'm willing to pursue it. And the thing is, once you realize people are going to have something to say, whether you win or lose, you might as well go for your goals, because you're not going to please everyone. You won't even please most of everyone. So you might as well please yourself as much as you can.
Boy, that's the power right there. I feel like we should expand on that, because that right there can trip a lot of people up. I've seen that trip people up all the way through their life, living till in their 80s, even, where they're just pinballing off of trying to please and, do what they think others will like. And unfortunately, it makes you kind of like in a rudderless boat, and you're sort of doing this, and rather than sticking your foot in the ground and having a little bit of backbone, understanding who you are, what's best for you, and going with that. Man, that's powerful stuff right there. You got it. From that pleasing others thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a challenging balance, because I'm a people pleaser. So I'm the type of person who is empathetic about how something I'm going to do will affect others.
Okay.
But I'm also able to put my head down and burrow ahead. But it is a delicate balance, because sometimes I can find myself in a trap position where I'm trying to improve interactions with an individual, or I want to be received in a positive way. So in trying to achieve that goal, I'll be more lax on focusing on myself, and to a fault, because sometimes it's okay not to focus on yourself, but at other times I do it to a fault, and then I have to kind of wake up. Sometimes it's halfway through, sometimes it's after the fact, but try to snap yourself back to reality. But I think it's important to be able to be an empathetic person, but I think it's also important to be able to be a person who can focus on their goals and, throw caution to the wind, and just fail on purpose almost. When I first started my sales career, and I would get frustrated in how many dials I had to make to get a person on the phone. And so dialing the phone became disconjointed. It became overwhelming. It became a negative experience for me. And my sales manager, he gave me some really great advice. Instead of chasing the yeses, which comes once every 15 to 20 calls, chase the no's. So now I would come in, and I was selling copiers, and that's a commodity product, really hard to sell if you don't have the book of business. But now I come into work in the morning, and I would say to myself, let's see how fast I can get to 100 no's. In order to get to 100 no's, I got to make 120 dials. Along the way, I'm going to get people to pick up the phone. So now all of a sudden, I'm chasing my nose, where the yes, I'll meet with you is almost kind of like a, okay, cool, let's meet next week. But I'm trying to get to my nose, because now I'm not afraid to dial. Okay. So chase what you perceive as a negative thing until you make it a positive thing. And I think you can apply that methodology to a lot of things that you do in life, where you can look at things that people perceive as a negative and pivot and make it a positive thing, just simply by changing your perspective. But that's way too much Clinton time. way too much quick jigs time. I want to get back to you, Ray, because we talked about your time with this corporate role, and it kind of was with the brainchild of Fearless. But walk me through going from there to starting your own company. What was that journey like?
Oh, it was a beautiful journey. It was a delayed journey. It was one I'm patient with because I believe in it and it's aligned. So I'll just start by saying, when doing an internal project that's not in your job description in a corporation, that doesn't necessarily lead to a promotion. It did, but it doesn't really lead to one, right? They're not just going to be like, all right, you're a VP now. It doesn't happen like that.
Right, yeah.
But I'm like, okay, so I just increased the productivity of 4 departments about 43%. I feel like I should be like, have this Brinks truck driven to my house.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
That's what I thought. And it didn't work like that. And that was kind of demotivating for me. So I was like, okay, how do I continue to grow at this corporation? But also, let yourself, even if you don't have cash saved up or whatever you're doing, let yourself take a baby step toward your goal. If you find a goal, if you find a passion somewhere in there, that's what happened. I found a passion. I want to do that forever. I want to do that again. I'd already done it.
That's dope. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So I bought an LLC right there. And like, I didn't have any income coming in, didn't have any clients, but I bought it. Right, I bought the rights to the name. Talked with my brother. He goes, Fearless Feedback sounds awesome. I'm like, you're right, brother. We're doing that. And that's what happened. So like, I let myself have a little baby step. And in my own mind, when I'm doing this other stuff, going back to the data world, I'm thinking, I'm smiling. You know what I mean? Because I'm taking that step toward the congruent goal that's congruent with what I want to do.
Yeah.
So every little step to where it is now, that was step one. Step one would probably be belief. But step one of action, it's just been step after that.
So, and something you just mentioned that I think would be helpful to get more insight on, because I think a lot of times when, whether you have entrepreneurial aspirations or, you want to build a deck, I don't care what the goal is. I think a lot of times people feel like they have to rely solely on themselves. They feel like they have to be Mr. or Mrs. Everything. And I know you just mentioned that you spoke to your brother about buying the LLC. So I'm curious, what do you see as the importance of having people in your corner to kind of bounce ideas off of and so forth?
Yeah. I mean, first, if you have someone in your corner, that's valuable. A lot of people are just talking and they're out there thinking about themselves. So if someone's actually in your corner, that's valuable. Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid to lean on them. And then I would say just be completely honest. Like I have a very small group of best friends, brother, a few others as well. And I'm always very open and honest about what I'm doing. It's if somebody has your back, that is so valuable, and you should definitely utilize that. I'm sure, man, I don't even know where to start, but there's so much power in getting help, and don't feel like you're alone. And you can ask people too. Like you can find someone on LinkedIn who does something similar. Like you put Deckmaster in on LinkedIn. I'm sure you'd find some people that go by that title or something similar.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to get into this. Have you ever done carpentry before? No. Can I steal 15 minutes of your time? Sure. So I think it's incredibly important if you can learn from others. Yeah.
And I've found that in addition to having a strong network, there's this university that I recommend to everyone called YouTube University. Okay, yeah. Because the answers to almost all of your questions are there with real practical application that you can digest at your own pace and use. It doesn't matter what your goal is. I'm pretty sure you can find a competent SME, subject matter expert on YouTube that can give you some insight.
I'm gonna validate that right now. I went to a very highly renowned data science school, and I learned more YouTube and stuff after class, and following along with random wonderful data scientists, following along what they were doing, than I did in class. Than I did with the homework, than I did with the exams, than I did with hanging out with the other students who were smart from all over the world.
Yeah,
it was YouTube. They're just taking that initiative, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so much out there. That's true. Like it's so powerful. Like that's why there's almost no excuse today to not do what you want to do, or at least try a little bit. Like buying a little LLC, or saving up $20 to buy the LLC, to be inching toward your goal. There's no excuse not to, because the information's out there. You know,
there's an incredible amount of information at our fingertips, and it's just a matter of your willingness to invest the time in leveraging the resources. You don't even have to know necessarily where to find them, because you go to Google. It's not going to take you very long to narrow your list, and if this is something you're really interested in doing and you're determined to do, then it won't be much work at all. But
that's
I'm sorry.
Right
go ahead.
there. That's it right there. If it's something that you yourself are interested in doing, it won't feel like work. It's like this congruency. Like if you're, some people have like easier quotes. They're like, if you're going to work, you're dreading it every day. You're in the wrong job. Like, okay, no. But now what do I do? And now what do I do? The answer, I would say, is not quit right away. The answer would be to continue to win, get the most out of it as you can, put everything you can into it, get the most out of it as you can, and inch toward your goal. Learn, like in this one corporation I was in, I could learn a side skill for 10% of my time. I was allowed to do that. I definitely expanded that with what is now Greatest Feedback, right? Everybody had that freedom. And
yeah, that's cool.
You know, inch toward your goal, little by little.
I think you raised a really great point too. Is just, I think a lot of times people have these great ideas that they might kind of believe in, not fully believe in, but they also find themselves trapped in a job, whether they like the job or not, where they feel like they can't carve out the time to pursue that goal. But I've personally, I've been an entrepreneur for 6+ years now, but every job I've ever had gave me more knowledge to help me to build my company. So leverage the information that you have access to in your career.
Yeah.
And then invest the time. It could be an hour a day. It could be 3 hours a week, but I find that if you treat your goal with the same respect that you treat your job, you have a much higher probability of getting there, where you don't, and this is the same way I look at working out, proper nutrition. If you structure it where with the same parameters, the same boundaries that you give to things that you do consistently. So for most people, that's work. They show up to work because they need to get paid. They got to pay the bills, right? Yep. So treat those goals with the same consistency and the same discipline. So if you work from 9 to 5, say from 7 to 8:30 every night, I'm working on XYZ Corporation, or before work from 4:30 until 5:30, or whatever the scenario. But give yourself parameters and boundaries that are similar to whatever you follow currently that has structure, because it helps you to hold yourself responsible and helps you to stay on point. Because when you treat it like a hobby, it's like, I might do it today. I don't feel like it. Think about how often you do things that you don't feel like. If you feel like you have to do them, you're still going to do them, even when you don't feel like them. And even when you gave 80% on a day that you were feeling like 80%, you actually gave 100% of what you had that day. Versus, I touched it on Monday, and maybe next Friday I'll find some time to do it. You don't really want it. You just would like to have it. But if you really want it, you have to be willing to invest that time and that discipline to get the goal. Yeah.
And wanting it, and like, man, there's a lot of gold nuggets in that you just said. I'm gonna go with one, which is like the parameters and boundaries that you set. And I want to we're talking about professional stuff, right? Those parameters and boundaries, like that's a form of self-respect. And when you're going toward a goal that's right for you, you are basically respecting yourself times 10. You are I think the term is self-actualizing in a way, when you're just working toward it, not even there yet, right? That's the fun stuff. And you get to feel good about that, and you also mentioned like holding yourself responsible is commitment. You commit, tell yourself, promise yourself, and then keep that promise to yourself. It's self-rewarding. It helps you to be motivated again the next day. You'll look back, have a little internal smile or an external smile if you're an extrovert, whichever, and you'll be happy about it. You'll want to do it again, and you'll be gaining a lot of confidence in yourself. Confidence is key. Energy is key. I'd say there's one part that we should throw in, which is we should also be taking care of our health. Also prioritizing things like sleep, water, whatever.
Absolutely.
If we're going like, well, I'll do this and then I'll sleep for 2 hours, you're actually making yourself less efficient.
Absolutely.
Sleep, and you can definitely balance all that. Because like I think you've started more than one company, right? Like you're doing multiple things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people that wakes up really early. But I go to bed early. So yeah, rest is important. Sometimes people think that to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to burn the midnight oil, and they'll read an article or some entrepreneur who is successful.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times they're like overselling reality, because I wake up 3 a.m. and I go to bed 11:30, and I work, and they create this ideal lifestyle that's not reality. Yeah. But I 100% agree with you. Your health and well-being is pinnacle to your long-term success. That includes rest being incredibly important. So on a bad night, I get 6 hours. My goal is 7 to 8. But you have to be committed to your health and well-being as well, especially to obtain your long-term goals. Right. So I'm happy to hear you mention that.
Yeah, and I mentioned that especially to you because I know that you're the master of that. You're sort of a cross between Jocko Willink and David Goggins with your exercise and your discipline. But
no Navy SEAL in me though. No Navy SEALs here.
You forgot the Navy SEAL part, but you're in the same spot. You're not, kind of sort of a cross between those two in discipline and exercise. So like, that's why I want to toss it up to you. I think it's also important to note that it's not like we're both entrepreneurs, right? We both had some decent amount of success so far. That's good. It's not like every single day we feel amazing or every single day is perfect. There's still challenges all the time. There's still that time where you're like, wow, 5 o'clock, do I really have to get out? There's stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's okay. That's okay. You're still a human, So I just want to throw that out there if somebody's really going against the wall.
Yeah. Not only is it okay, but you should expect it. And I'm probably messing up this quote just a bit, but one of my favorite quotes that I ever heard around this scenario is character is built in challenging times. So it's easy to be upbeat and in a positive mood when things are clicking. But especially if you have ambitious goals, you're going to have valleys, you're going to have down times. And your ability to approach those downtimes and overcome them and continue a high level of intensity like you would if things were going well is an incredible skill set to gain. And it doesn't come naturally. It has to be refined. And you're still going to have times where life just beats the crap out of you. And you have to lay down on the mat for a few minutes. You win. I personally rarely have those types of times, but in the last 3 months, I've had that happen to me 3 or 4 times where it's like, okay, life, I'm tapping out. I submit, not literally tapping out of life, but tapping out of this scenario because I'm beat up. But then you get back up, and that's where character is built, is your ability to get back up and continue to push forward.
There you go.
It's not all going to be rainbows,
Nah, yeah. I'm going to add one more, and I know we're kind of possibly coming up on time, but
yeah.
Add one more thing to that is like, say I lost yesterday. I just lost it, and I just didn't do anything, and I laid him on my couch or whatever. Or an even worse loss. Forgive yourself for that loss. Forgive yourself for the loss. Do that 24-hour rule, which is like, get over it. And don't drag all this past stuff with you because it is literally gone. Someone else might bring it up, and deal with it then. But it's like forgive yourself from what wasn't perfect, and just focus on right now. it's amazing how much we can accomplish. And that's probably why I like the entrepreneurial world. It's like you got to constantly grow. And if
You have to.
any of that stuff with you, you're done. And so you gotta let it go every day. You gotta let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
No,
don't know if it's similar for you, but what do you think?
no. I'm 100%. 100% agree with you. I like to liken it to NFL quarterback. You throw a pick, you got to have a short-term memory. You got to get back out there and throw the ball again. You can't be afraid to throw. If you're a great shooter and you are 0 for 7, you got to shoot that 8th shot. You can't become timid. You can't become unmotivated. You can't lose trust and belief in yourself, because then you're ruined. So you got to have a short-term memory. One of my sales managers with this same company that I mentioned earlier, he used to always say, "You're only as good as your next sale." Where I remember my first time hitting quota. I think back then my quota was like something small, like 45,000 a month or something. And my first time hitting quota, I was really proud of myself. Like I sold $45,000 worth of equipment this month. I'm awesome, and I know I'm awesome. And he said, "That's great. What are you doing next month? Because you're only as good as your next sale." Okay. So you're only as good as your next accomplishment. So even with things you accomplish, you can celebrate, but you should be ready to move on to the next stage. And the next stage can be a plane. It doesn't mean that you're always overcoming mountains. The next stage can be a plane, but you have to understand that everything happens in little milliseconds, and you always got to be ready to move on to the next thing. You can't dwell on the highs or the lows. You have to keep churning ahead, or you're going to get lost in the mix.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a lot. That was a lot of value
Yeah.
in there. Man, I could put my analyst hat on for an hour. I'm not going to do it though.
That's where the numbers man comes in here. Yeah. So I feel like I've spoken too much, but it's okay. It's okay. If you can't tell. Before we wrap up here, I want to give you two opportunities. One, if there's anything else you think will be important to say in closing that you find motivational or just helpful in general. And then I want to give you an opportunity to plug your business, where they can find you in the social media world, your website, and so forth. I'll make sure I plug that inside the description as well. But I want to give the floor to you before we wrap up here.
Yeah, I was just thinking about motivation a little bit, and I wanted to jump back into that with things like negative people, right? Negative people, negative thoughts, too much sugar, health stuff. Say too much coffee. I don't know how many cups that is. I'm not that educated on that, but cutting it out, avoiding negative people. It's literally impossible to avoid negative interactions with people unless you're in a bunker, and that is not healthy. So right. I would say, like, how do you react or do you not react? It says a lot about you and how you feel. So, like, we want help. We always talked about, like, our community being powerful. If someone who has my back turns the other way and they're just not themselves and they're saying all these negative things, whatever, don't put all your self-worth or your projects into, like, dependent on what that person's going to say, even if they're super valuable, even if it's a parent, for example, right? Don't put it all in there. Keep it with you. Value their opinion, value their inputs, but keep it with you. And the motivation really has to come from you, and that comes from, like, doing what is right for you and respecting yourself the entire time. So if you're asked to compromise your respect, that might be a situation where we have a conversation. And if that doesn't work, then that's not the best situation for you. I would say that. Yeah. So cutting out the negatives is important, I think.
Absolutely. I'm actually glad you mentioned that, because I keep saying all these different things, these quotes and stuff I live by, but I really do. Positive energy above all costs. So you're going to run into negative people, negative space. The news can be negative. Just negativity is just everywhere. So your ability to mitigate that negativity and focus on positive things, I think, is a incredibly powerful tool. Just to overcome, because the humps in life are less significant when you're not drowned in negativity. When you're drowned in negativity, is woe is me, everything's against me, everybody's against me, and then that's a rabbit hole that you don't want to go down.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm gonna add that to that's I gotta circulate it in my brain a bit more, because I have a singular thing also. I always say self-respect above everything. Like, and to respect yourself, that should not include attacking someone, throwing that out there. Like,
yeah.
Respecting yourself. Like, someone's attacking me, I'm going to attack them. Like, that's not necessarily the best thing. Like, life depends on it, sure. But self-respect throughout everything. If at the end of the day, even in what you do, you said giving 100%, all of you when you have 80, that's respecting yourself. That's like, like at the end of the day, you're like, wow. But also with other people. If someone is like constantly sort of being manipulative, verbally say that, put it out there. Respect yourself that you have boundaries. We talk about boundaries for our own selves and for, parameters for ourselves.
Yeah.
Things done. Also boundaries for stuff that, if others are trying to do things that are bad on you, you are allowed to say, hey, that's not okay with me, and I would appreciate if you stop. Are they going to stop? I don't know. But you will be proud of yourself. You will respect yourself.
For standing up for yourself.
Yeah, it's important. It's important.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like a movie where then you put on some brass knuckles and you punch somebody. Like I like a lot of fighting movies, but yeah, it's like, it's just respect yourself, and if you didn't, that's okay. Forgive yourself, and then come back the next day and make sure you go through that next one. That same scenario, if it happens again, make sure you're like, okay, what am I going to do to?
You build from, yeah.
So the positivity part, I gotta work that into my philosophy. I feel like those two will go right.
Positive energy, positive vibes.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything else is a distraction. But I agree with you. Everything you just said. And what I want to do, well, I still want to give you a chance to plug Fearless, because we do need to wrap up here. But I want to give you an opportunity to plug Fearless, and then I'll wrap up and we'll be done.
Yeah, Fearless Feedback LLC. It's just a wonderful program because it's good for all parties. It's a relief for all parties. I'm talking employees from the first day entry level to managers to executives to their clients. It's a win for everybody. It's congruent with it's a strategy that's congruent with what is best for the self-respect of every single person, right? So it's tying that all together. It also, what it really does is it eliminates the largest cause of employee disengagement, which is truly a negative experience that they have. Not that a corporation wants people to have negative experiences, but it can happen so quickly. And that direct manager to employee feedback is just so unfortunately misunderstood. And that's why it was just wonderful to bring science into that and to see it be cured. It's wild.
Yeah.
I was going to say this. So I teach managers. So I did 53 for that one corporation. It can be less, but usually department by department. But the first manager I taught was my own. And he was in his fourth month as a manager. And then he moved up. He's moved up 3 times. He now oversees half the United States. And he texted me. So we still have a relationship. And he's like, yeah, I use that all the time. I get the maximum employee engagement of everyone on my team at every level. Like, I'm just doing that. He's like, it is the key.
Yeah.
I'm like, thanks, man. Can you do a video for me? So I'll do a video. But it just works. And all these employee engagement things like parties and stuff, you don't need to do all of that. That's cool. But if you have dissatisfied, disengaged employees and you throw a party, you'll have dissatisfied, disengaged employees at a party. Right? And it's not solving anything. We solve the issue at its core.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Ray, it's been a pleasure to have you on today.
I'm honored to be here. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be on the show. Yeah.
I will make sure that I include links to Fearless Feedback inside the description. As far as to the listeners, I want to certainly thank you for joining in on episode 7 of the Know It All podcast. As always, I'm going to ask you to please make sure you subscribe, you comment, you like and share. And until next time, make it a great day.